Gillespie with Reason TV, and today we're talking with William Weld, former governor of Massachusetts and vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, and Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico and the presidential candidate, nominee of the Libertarian Party. What is the worst aspect of a potential Trump presidency, and what's the worst aspect of a potential Clinton presidency?
I'll start with Trump. I don't think that Mr. Trump has made a great study of the issues. I'm not sure that he's read deeply in history as it might apply to current political decisions. So I see a shallowness.
But we're fighting a very politically correct war.
Yeah. Well, we see that happening in
The other thing is with the terrorists, you have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families. They care about their lives. Don't kid yourself. But they say they don't care about their lives. You have to take out their families.
But the other thing is the rule of law in the Constitution. And we pride ourselves on the rule of law in this country, not only socially and in terms of our government, but also our economy, both domestic and foreign. And Mr. Trump has suggested he would slap a 45% tariff on Chinese goods, 35% tariff on Mexican goods, build a huge wall and make the Mexicans pay for it. Any number of things that would violate his duties under the Constitution. He sent a fundraising letter to members of foreign legislatures. That's a violation of the Emoluments Clause. We would be hauled before the Court of International Justice at Hague as a rogue nation if we did everything that Donald Trump has proposed in the area of foreign policy.
Hillary Clinton now, you talk about protectionism. Hillary Clinton is against, she's talking down NAFTA. She started doing that in 2000.
We're the only free trade ticket out there.
Okay,
so
that's what I'm saying. So what is particularly bad about Hillary Clinton? I mean, she's a protectionist too. What else, what would be terrible about a Hillary Clinton presidency?
That she is the establishment.
Rachel, yes. Secretary Clinton does represent the establishment. I represent, I hope, ordinary Americans, and by the way, who are not all that enamored with the establishment, but I am very proud to have people like Keith Ellison and Raul Grijalva in the House, the co-chairman of the House Progressive Caucus.
Well, look, I've got to just jump in here because, honestly, Senator Sanders is the only person who I think would characterize me, a woman running to be the first woman president, as exemplifying the establishment. And I've got to tell you that it's really quite amusing to me.
Hillary, you were First Lady, a senator from New York, Secretary of State, runner-up in the last Democratic primary, and you have the entire establishment behind you. The Democratic establishment is behind you. Wall Street is behind you. Just because you have... No, this is...
Nothing's going to... Actually, things are going to change. Government's going to try and do more in our lives as opposed to less, and so that's going to mean higher taxes, and that's money out of your and my pocket that we could be spending on our own lives as opposed to government knows best. And she is really, and I don't think that this has been intentional, but she's really been the architect of our foreign policy that has made things worse, not better, using Syria and Libya as an example. You know, going in and supporting the opposition in those two countries that are aligned with ISIS. You can't make this up. This is what has happened.
As it stands now, there are lots of different groups and outside countries involved in Syria's war. And even among allies, there are big disagreements about who their enemies are, who to support, and how to do it. And those contradictions are a big part of why, for this war, there is just no end in sight.
The first thing I would say is just the fiscal situation. When President Obama leaves office, the national debt is going to be $20 trillion, doubled since not so long ago. You can't go on like that.
You see, just like Uncle Sam, governments, banks, and corporations don't actually have much money. Mostly, all they have is debt to each other. If one link in the debt chain stops paying, defaults, the whole thing falls apart. If investors can't pay their bills, corporations won't be able to pay their employees. If banks can't pay their bills, you won't be able to take out a loan, use a credit card, or even withdraw your savings. If foreign governments can't pay their bills, their own banks and corporations will have the same problems. That's called a global economic collapse. It's never happened before, so nobody really knows how bad it will be, how long it will last, or even how we'll eventually get out of it.
It's something that she truly believes, that she would like to raise the amount of social spending, raise the amount of government spending, called investment on the Democratic side of the aisle. And I think that'd be bad for the economy. It would hollow out the economy. We're small government people. We cut taxes. We shrank government. The Democrats would go the other direction.
The first budget that is signed by Johnson-Weld administration, how much are you going to spend, and where do you take it from?
You cannot do the Washington thing of assuming that anything other than a 5% increase is a cut. That's Washington speak, and that's what the two-party duopoly has gotten us into, both parties.
If you only have a 2% rate of growth in government, overall government spending, you balance the budget in 5 years.
So you would freeze spending or keep it below 2% annually?
We would come out of the chute proposing a balanced budget. 20% of government spending is becoming debt.
Would you cut 20%? From
Proposing,
$4 trillion
yes,
minus,
proposing a balanced budget, yes.
So what is the balanced budget amendment? It quite simply would be an amendment to the Constitution which would prohibit Congress from spending more money than it brought in. Advocates of this say it just makes sense. We have an $18 trillion debt. We're carrying a $500 billion deficit every year that is just out of control, that Congress doesn't have the ability to rein in spending. We have to force these smart choices, and we need a constitutional amendment. There's a couple of other clauses in that amendment that kind of buffer it a little bit. It's a declaration of war clause, so if there is a declaration of war, Congress could spend more money than it brought in. There's also a 3/5 waiver, so if 3/5 of the House and the Senate decided we really need to spend more money, we could do that as well. There's a 2/3 majority needed to raise taxes, and it caps federal spending at 18% of GDP as well.
You can't do it without addressing military spending. You can't do it without addressing the entitlements, Medicaid and Medicare. Social Security, raising the retirement age. You could have a very fair means testing.
Hillary Clinton, as you mentioned, historically high disapproval ratings. Nobody likes them, even in their own parties. What is the pitch to Democrats? Don't vote for Hillary, vote for Johnson-Weld.
The whole honesty and integrity and telling the truth. I think we've had careers based on telling the truth. And when you tell the truth, that's admitting mistakes also. Make plenty of mistakes.
And Hillary does not tell the truth.
Well, I think there's a judgment issue that if I were to have made those same judgment issues, I'd like to think that, whoa, I made some really poor judgment here. Guilty of the judgment, not guilty of criminal intent. That was not the case. But that's not something I think you hear her say.
What's the case to Republicans who cannot bring themselves to vote for Donald Trump, or actually might be thinking about it? What do you say? Why should you vote Libertarian?
Same thing. Look, there is a path down the middle here that really does address smaller government. That smaller government is something that is desirable. That liberty and freedom is important. And it means that you can be a social conservative, but don't try and force that on me.
What about Bernie Sanders? He is a progressive. He's a social progressive. He wants to grow government. What is the pitch that you guys make to disgruntled Bernie bros to vote for you?
Take the isidewith.com quiz. See if you turn out like me. I side with myself most, and then next in line I side with Bernie Sanders. But here's my contention. Are Bernie Sanders supporters really about income equality, or are they about opportunity equality? And if they're about opportunity equality, and this is crony capitalism, this is the fact that government is for sale, it's being sold, you got money, you can buy influence, and you can buy prosperity. Well, we're going to offer up a big dose of government can provide equal opportunity. And if people see that, I think that's more important, or that is something that's achievable.
Even more than any one issue, I think the dragon that I'm jousting against this year is this frozen monopoly of the two parties there that have frozen a lot of people's thinking in place. And they think, I have to be a right-winger, or I have to be a left-winger. They're not thinking, what do I think? And if we can shatter that and get them asking the question, what do I think? And then listen to the three offerings, they're going to come our way. And I don't mean 20% of them. I mean between 40 and 50% of them. And that's the election.
How are young people responding to this message?
You saw the poll the other day. We're polling higher among millennials than Donald Trump.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think this is the notion of being socially who cares as long as those choices don't adversely affect others. Dropping bombs, I think young people recognize that the world isn't a safer place at all for all of what we're doing overseas. And then I really do believe that young people recognize that the system is rigged. That, in my opinion, is not income equality, that's equal opportunity, and that we can offer up a big dose of that.
What is your vision of a future America?
Let me start with the present. Has life in America ever been better than it is today? No, it hasn't. We get along better. Kids are smarter than ever. The number one law enforcement tool is this guy right here when we're witnessing that all the time. When you think about the future and you think about a model of entrepreneurism where the middleman can be eliminated and you as a provider of goods and services can make more money and people that are buying those services pay less, that's an exciting... Airbnb, Kate and I, we have a home in Santa Fe. I think we could rent that darn thing out part-time for make an extra 40 grand a year. Well, the city of Santa Fe bans Airbnb. Come on, if that was money in our pockets, we'd be spending that all over Santa Fe. Well, they're protecting the hotel industry, and I just think there's a closed-mindedness with Democrats and Republicans, protect the status quo when future is wide open if we'll just get a libertarian bent on the whole thing.